and welcome. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a fight breakdown. Obviously to the recent fight a couple of weeks ago now, obviously between Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury. You know what I mean? I have to give props to where props are due, you know what I mean, to Tyson Fury, as I honestly thought, you know what I mean, it was a masterclass performance, really, you know what I mean, and he dominated from the first round, and personally, I felt as if he chose when he wanted to end the fight, and he wasn't really looking for that big shot that ended the fight. He just threw it literally out of nowhere, and I think, you know what I mean, him and Sugar Hill did their homework, and you know what I mean, they knew that was the shot to kind of end the fight. You know what I mean, my pre-fight predictions was that I thought Dillian Whyte would have potentially of given Tyson a little bit more trouble, or potentially have even beaten Tyson Fury. I thought it potentially Tyson maybe would have slipped up, because you know he probably weren't going to be up for this fight, but you can see that he remained professional throughout every single round. You know what I mean, he stuck to his game plan. You know what I mean, like worked Dillian out, and then obviously threw the winning shot, really. But obviously the size difference between both boxers was, you know what I mean, very noticeable from round one. And to be honest, Dillian struggled. You know what I mean? He just didn't know how to get within his range and to land his shots. And I think what Tyson did very well was, you know what I mean, at times when Dillian was coming forward, he would sometimes take that little half step back, you know what I mean, which would then put Dillian at further reach, or sometimes even just stepping forward as well, you know what I mean? So just smothering Dillian's work and making him look sloppy and tying him up, which again is, you know what I mean, the difference between a world-class fighter and an elite fighter. And me personally, you know what I mean, that is the difference between both men. Dillian is a world-class opponent, whereas Tyson is that elite level, top-rated boxer who's again got that boxing genius about him as well. And what is, you know what I mean, like, fascinating is that how Tyson over the last couple of years has developed his power. And you know what I mean, props again have to go to his coach, really, and that is Stewart, you know what I mean, Sugar Hill. I don't know how I got that wrong, but literally a couple of years ago, Tyson would have potentially you know what I mean, this fight would have potentially have gone the distance, because Tyson would not have got his man out. But you could just see that, you know what I mean, he's throwing and hitting with more power. And whereas beforehand, people would have said, oh, Tyson's got no power because he's kind of just tapping you. But every shot you can see that he's landing, he's actually hurting his opponents. Do you know what I mean? And it's the shots that his opponents are not seeing are the ones that are causing the damage and knocking them out. Now, I'm just going to do a little bit of an analysis now, you know what I mean, of the loser, Dillian Whyte, and how I thought that, you know what I mean, how he kind of performed. And I've got to say, you know what I mean, from round one, it was quite evident, really. Again, I talked about that distance between the both fighters, but also how slow and lethargic and unfit Dillian looked in round one. Do you know what I mean? Like, his foot movement was so slow, and his jab was I mean, just easy to kind of combat, really. You know what I mean? It's so slow when you threw that jab, and I think that kind of played into Tyson's hands. And at the end of round one, you know what I mean, both fighters are going back to their corner. Tyson just looked calm, relaxed, whereas you looked at Dillian, he was gasping for air. You know what I mean? Deep breaths taken in, and it just looked really unfit. Obviously with Tyson, you know what I mean, I thought it was a brilliant approach. He was very professional at all times, and he remained relaxed and composed. And again, he looked fit for the weight as well. People were going on about how fleshy he is and how big he is and stuff, but you know what I mean, I think Tyson goes to show that it doesn't matter about your aesthetics, you know what I mean, it's about skill. And you have to be fit for that weight. And I think Tyson, you know what I mean? I got to give him my props again. He's like, he's fit for his weight and his size. Throughout the fight, I don't think he was troubled at any point. And you know what I mean? Sugar Hill has improved him by adding that power which I talked about, and the accuracy and his timing, as well as Tyson Fury's balance, which is very important. Because again, previous fights, you know what I mean, not in recent years, but you could see back in the days when he fought Klitschko and he fought Zora, sometimes his timing and his balance was sometimes off, and I feel as if that's just, you know what I mean, again, been improved by 3 or 4 points, you know what I mean? He's standing his ground, he's throwing his shots, and he's looking like, you know what I mean, he's unstoppable, really. Anyway, we're going to finish up now just to kind of say where I think both fighters should kind of go in regards to their future. And I feel as if, you know what I mean, the future for Tyson, obviously, you mentioned before the fight that he's potentially, you know what I mean, going to retire and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't want him to retire. I feel as if he's still got a bit more to add into the game. And I think that he should potentially try and fight the winner between AJ and Usyk. You know what I mean? To kind of cement his legacy that little bit more. But, you know what I mean? Like, even though he will potentially fight the winner, if that winner is not AJ, you know what I mean? Some fans will potentially say that even though he beat Usyk, you know what I mean, who had all the belts, he didn't kind of beat the man who, you know what I mean, most people consider to have a better resume, as well as the best in Britain, and that's AJ. So I feel as if AJ does lose that, you know what I mean, he should go after the belts, clear up all the belts, and potentially have one last hooray at Wembley or wherever, you know what I mean, and just prove that, you know what I mean, he can demolish AJ and then retire. And that's him doing that. He doesn't need to stay around and fight anyone else because there's no need, in my opinion. Well, Dillian Whyte, interesting, you know what I mean, there's still some good fights out there for him, you know what I mean, some good matchups, and personally I like to see him fight someone like Ruiz, Wilder, do you know what I mean, or even Joyce. I think Joyce and maybe Dubois maybe a little bit too youthful for him and might really cause him a little bit of trouble. But the previous 2 fights, you know what I mean, Ruiz and Wilder that I mentioned, they're excellent fights. Do you know what I mean? A clash of styles. Especially the Ruiz one, because both fighters like to fight on the inside. You know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? In that fight, I could see knockdowns. Pure knockdowns. Whereas with the Wilder fight, I feel as if Dillian's probably the better boxer out of the 2. As we already know, Wilder's not the best boxer. But, you know what I mean? At some point, Wilder will land. I feel as if Wilder will potentially be the fitter man as well. But he will land. And he potentially will hurt Dillian, and it'd be interesting to kind of see how Dillian reacts. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the uppercut again that catches him. But in regards to him fighting again for another world title, I'm not sure if this will ever happen, because I think it's a long road back, really, you know what I mean, for him to potentially get another title shot, unless there's some sort of tournament or something like that. But it'd be interesting, and let's see what happens. That's my post-fight breakdown. Please leave your comments.